Hey guys, this is Mark Howard, author of the Griffin Legends fantasy novel series. Thanks for joining me here today. Today I wanted to talk to you about a historiographical topic, which is something that maybe I can't help that so much, right? I taught history for 5 years to middle schoolers, got my master's degree in it, studied it all in my undergrad, right? So we can't help but do this once in a while. For those of you who might remember that little TikTok video trend a while ago where these women would ask the men in their lives how often you think about the Roman Empire, and then the men would answer, I don't know, once a week or once a day, I guess, right? Or whatever it was they answered, right? And these women would just be shocked. And, well, when I watched those videos, and if I saw a guy answer anything less than once a day, I would say to myself, those are rookie numbers. You need to up your game. But anyway, we're going to tackle a little bit of a historiographical topic here today, which is the phrase that I think most of us, if not all of us, have heard at one point or another. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Now, I don't really like that phrase, and I'll get into why for a second, but first, I want to talk about why so many of us, when we hear that phrase, we kind of nod sagely and go, yes, of course, right? Many of us agree with that phrase. A lot of smart people around us will quote that when something poignant happens along those lines, right? And so I know I'm being a little bit counter to our more typical way of thinking here, but that's not really a shocker to most of you who know me. I go against the grain sometimes. So anyway, why we tend to agree with this phrase, right? Our own zeitgeist, why we like this phrase, is I think it has a lot to do with, over the past 200-300 years, we've had some incredible advances in technology, right? You think of things like the Industrial Revolution, the steam engine, the automobile, jet planes, cameras, the internet, right? All of these modern conveniences, advances in medicine, all of these things that make our lives better in so many ways, and we think, I don't want to trade this stuff for my ancestors who were farming dirt in some field and never got a bathe, right? Most of us would not trade all the modern comforts we have for that, and for good reason. But to say that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, right? This has a very negative connotation, and I would argue that the past is not all bad. Certainly there are bad things in the past that we don't want to repeat, right? No one is begging for slavery to come back, or for the Nazis or Joseph Stalin or any of those guys to just do round two, right? We want to leave that stuff behind. But the notion that the past is entirely bad and that nothing from there is good, that's a fairly modern idea, and I would argue a very disingenuous interpretation of the past. Most peoples historically, when they look to the past, instead of thinking of it as this barbaric time, they instead would look back with nostalgia, right? Medieval people looked back on the Roman Empire and said, gosh, I really wish we could have that back, right? With medieval political entities like the Holy Roman Empire or the Sultanate of Rome, right? We've got these various entities out there that want to bring the Roman Empire back, right? So they look to the past as something great, fully worth repeating in their minds, right? Likewise, a number of Roman figures looked to the past and said, oh man, I wish I could be Alexander the Great. And then the Greeks looked to their own past and would say things like, I'm trying to think of, oh yes, I remember now. There's this part in the Iliad, right, where Homer tells us that Ajax lifts up this giant boulder over his head and he throws it at the gates of Troy and he smashes it to itty bitty bits, right? And Homer takes a moment to tell the audience that men back then could do that. You little weaklings today cannot, right? So another dig at Homer's own time and thinking of how great this heroic age of the past was when you had people like Achilles and Odysseus and Ajax running around, right? So the point here is that most peoples of the past looked back to it with nostalgia, right? They looked at the good things that had happened, or at least the things that they thought were good and worth emulating, and they wanted to study these things to learn how to be the next Alexander the Great. And so I think looking at this more nuanced, right, we can say that there were definitely some bad things in the past that we don't want to see again, but there's some things that if we brought them back wouldn't be so bad, right? Certainly in modern U.S. politics, we could use a George Washington to sort things out, right? I'm not going to talk a whole lot about modern U.S. politics here, but there's certainly a lot of division right now that we don't need to have. And so tying all this back to my own fantasy writings here, right, which is what this channel is really all about, right? When I was writing Godfrey's Crusade and all the other adventures that followed with it, I wanted to write a story that was clearly in a different time and place, right? It would have been easy enough to take some modern issues, dress them up in chrome breastplates and wizard robes, and then tell you how to vote, right? But that's not what I want to do. And in fact, I think didacticism degrades art. As a general rule, flat across the board, if you're trying to tell me how to vote or if you're trying to preach to me, then that does not make good art. There's a time and a place for preaching, but not in art. At least that's my feeling on that. So when I set out to write these stories, I wanted to transport us to this different time and place, and I felt that it works for a couple of reasons. First off, there is a universality to the human experience, right? We can look at a person from another place and another time, and there's certain things about his or her situation that we can say, yes, I can relate to that, right? In the beginning of the Odyssey, we find we find Odysseus sitting on the beach of Calypso's island. And what is he doing? He is crying. He is in tears because he's been away from home for years and years, and he just wants to get back to his wife. That I think we can relate to. Now, there's a lot of other things about the Odyssey that maybe we have a tougher time relating to, right? There's all these gods with names we're not familiar with. There's these customs of guest friendship that we might look at and say, oh, that's kind of weird. I don't understand that. But through the eyes of the characters who are experiencing these things, we can fill in some of the gaps and learn about these other times and places vicariously, right? And that's what I set about to do in my own story, right? Where we're following this young knight who's trying to do the right thing for the right reason, and he's got these unique challenges, some of them universal, some of them specific to this kind of feudal lord-vassal relationship that maybe we in our day don't really understand all that well, but medieval people would, right? And we were able to glean the relevant parts to the plot, at least, through the eyes of our protagonists here. And so I think that works relatively well. I have yet to have a reader tell me that, oh, I don't understand what's going on, right? No one has complained to me about that so far. So anyway, that wraps it up for this video here. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. If you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments, right? It's worth having a conversation there about those things. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's what helps this channel grow. And we will catch you all next time.